Because the NHL season is going to be starting next week, and because we've got two prominent individuals on the line right now who made careers out of the game of hockey, we're going to talk now about hockey, and specifically a subject that we've talked about before, but now let's bring it up again, the Mike Babcock situation. Guys, now it's coming close to the start of the season. This thing is still a hot topic. Probably it's going to heat up even more. And he did an interview the other day where he said he fully expects to be back next year. But I don't necessarily think anybody believes that. This thing is just going to be on the slow boil until something happens. What is that? Both Bill and Phil, you take your answer that question. What's going to happen?
Go ahead, Billy. You first. Do you want me to?
No, Phil, you go ahead because I espouse this theory, and I'd like to hear yours.
Okay, my personal opinion is that they're not going to get him signed. If they haven't gotten him signed before the start of the season, and didn't Babcock say, if they don't sign me before the start of the season, I'm not going to talk contract in the hockey? Okay. This just reeks to me that Babcock has already got something else in mind, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if it was the Toronto Maple Leafs. The only thing that would, I think, throw a monkey wrench in there, and maybe it wouldn't even do that, is if the Leafs got off to a real good start, and they played very well, got into the playoffs, and did something in the playoffs. Other than that, I think that Babcock is going to be the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs next year.
Yeah, and I do too, Phil. And the theory that we talked about was that something would happen before the start of the season. Well, we're getting down pretty tight now. There's 1 week until 1 week from tomorrow the season opens, and I think that Mike Babcock, like you said, is not going to sign with the Red Wings. He's going to keep a number that Kenny Holland can't live with and Mr. Ilitch can't live with. And then Kenny has to decide whether he's going to allow his friend, Mike Babcock, to coach as a lame duck coach. Because Mike's not going to quit.
No, he won't quit. Absolutely not.
He won't walk in and say, hey, Kenny, I think it might be great idea if you move me. Because that plays his hand right away. Yeah. So he's going to, if Kenny says, or has said to Mike, look, Mike, I gave you my last offer last Sunday. I want to know on the 1st of October whether you're going to take it. And if he doesn't take it, and it's substantial, then something could happen between now and the start of the season. And if I was the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would not be reluctant to hire him right away. It just depends on what you have to give Kenny Holland. What is the compensation?
And that's why.
And if it's too much, to hell with it. Wait out the year. But I'm with you, Phil. I will not be at all surprised if Mike Babcock becomes the highest paid coach in the history of the NHL as coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it could happen in the next 8 days, or it could happen in the next 373 days. I think that we have a year to play with. It was a lot of fun thinking it might happen this season, but it appears to be too late now for that to transpire.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much in agreement with you, Bill, only because what could he be asking for that would be so outrageous? And the truth is, are the Red Wings that legitimate of a team to win this year?
I don't think so, Phil. I think they're a young team on the come with Zetterberg and Datsuk at the end of two wonderful careers.
And Datsuk's hurt right now, so he starts off the season hurt.
And he's been hurt quite a bit of late.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the greatest players in the game. Some of the things he does, are beyond description. He's very artistic in the way that he plays, but he also happens to be very strong on the puck. So now you're talking about him. That you always thought of Datsuk and Zetterberg. One of those guys is going to be gone for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So you're already talking about. He played with a lot of young guys last year, or they played with a lot of young guys last year, and they're probably going to give those guys a chance this year, but you take Datsuk out of the lineup. No, I don't think they're any close to being a Stanley Cup contender. I think they did very well last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think they'll do very well to make the playoffs this year. I think.
Same here.
at the end of the season, if they're in the top 8 in the East, I think they would have had a good season. And I've heard two things about Babcock's number. I've heard it's $4 million.
Okay.
And if it's $4 million,
the money in the game long enough that he wants control. Yeah. He wants control. He's not.
If Shanny is aggressively, whether it be behind the scenes or to Kenny, if you want to get rid of your coach, you can't sign. Let me know. I don't think he'd do that, but I don't think there's any question that if what we are purporting that Babcock is heading there, then there's a good relationship between Babcock and Shanahan. And money is no object. This will change Brendan Shanahan's career because he will have someone whom he can trust. Not that he can't trust Randy Carlyle, but obviously he doesn't feel as comfortable with Carlyle as with someone who he played for and knows a lot better. And I think it's a natural, and in order to justify $4 million, they're going to have to give him some added responsibility, and he will have an associate coach, whomever that may be, and they can make this thing work because it doesn't have any cap implications, so they can spend as much money on Babcock as they deem fit. And Mike Babcock has watched the career he's had and the players he's had and the guys that they're paying $5 million for, and he can feel very comfortable in saying, you know what, I think my presence is worth at least $4 million, because the salaries have gone out of sight. Some of those guys that are making $5 million, Christ, if the coach isn't worth $4 million, then I don't know who is. And if you've won 2 Olympics and 2 Stanley Cups, you should be at the top of the heap. And that's the way he looks at it, and the only way he's going to get there is to become a free agent. And that applies to who we were talking about before, Perry, Bautista. If Bautista's going to make $24 million like Cano, then
you're talking. Is it Bautista or you're talking about Cabrera?
No.
Okay, we're talking about they're going to extend this.
Cabrera's already at the free agent market, but Bautista's the guy that's grossly underpaid at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's the best outfielder in baseball. If you want to call Cano the best infielder, he got $24 million to play second base. Then you and Bautista has to earn in excess of 20 for. Let's just give Cano the benefit of the doubt as a second baseman, worth a little more. I don't know, but that's what. If you sign before you get that to there, if you sign before you become a free agent, you'll never find out what you're worth. Gretzky did that all his life.
Yeah,
he had a 19-year contract with the Edmonton Oilers. He never got market value for what he did in the game, and that's because Pocklington and Sather took advantage, along with their partner in crime there, the guy that was the owner of the Indianapolis, Nelson Skalbania.
Skalbania, yep.
And it's not something that you make light of. It was a 19-year contract, was preposterous, should never have been signed, and Wayne did as an 18-year-old, and he's made lots of money, but he could have made a hell of a lot more. And that's the gamble you take, and that's what Babcock's faced with. He'll never know how much he can make as a coach if he signs an extension with Detroit.